Hello, everyone. Welcome to our breakout session titled Religious Education and Digital Interfaces. My name is Paul Van Straten, and I will be facilitating today. In this session, we will be hearing from the authors of two research interest group papers. But before that, we have some housekeeping issues. You can use the chat for comments and questions. And as noted before, again, this session will be recorded. Um, uh, During this breakout session, two papers will be presented in the order they are listed on the schedule. Each author will have about 15 minutes to share highlights from their paper, and then we will have a question and discussion period. Our first paper today will be presented by Paulus Echo Kristianto, a doctoral student at the Faculty of Theology, Universitas Kristen Duta Wacana, Yogyakarta. Paulus will be presenting a paper titled Educating Christians, Christian Religious Education in the Digital Era in Indonesia. Paulus, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity to me after the plenary, and I also write down your input for this discussion, so it can be a good point to us, especially maybe for me to elaborate the discussion and your input to my paper before I publish it in Religious Education Journal. My article is Christian Religious Education in the Digital Era in Indonesia. I use this terminology, Christian religious education, that stated that this is a religious education, but start from Christian perspectives, especially to address the context of digital era, especially in Indonesia as a particular context. As we know that the digital era is a one-stop Indonesian's context, I know that the era or this context also happen in another places. But in this paper or article, I choose that this is one of the context from my context, especially in Indonesia. To start about this, we can find many kinds of books or journal in the discussion of digital era. Maybe in my short or sketch paper, I also write down the many kind of books and journal that I use it start from Indonesian perspectives. And here are two books that the can be discussing uh, is the transformasi model pembelajaran pendidikan agama Kristen di era digital. This is a title of in Indonesia, but as I translated in English is the transformation of Christian religious education learnings models in the digital era. And the second is pendidikan agama Kristen di era digital. I translated Christian religious education in the digital era. Elaborate the books and also to find out many kind of books and journal by using the literature research, by using the Christian religious education perspective. I find out the started from many kind of various fields in Indonesia to talk about the digital era. For the first is in the politics, because in the politic digital era also permitted in many kind of discussion, especially has permitted general election discussion as a tangible manifestation of the democratic process. Political parties that utilize virtual democracy, political economy of media, digital marketing for politics. There are many kind of discussion about digital era in the politics subject. In the economic subject, uh, we can understand that many kind of discussion, like creative economic development strategy in the digital era, the role of technology in the economic and business transformation in the digital era, the influence of technology in the economic and business transformation in the digital era. There are many kind of discussion, especially in economic, that using elaborate the technology and economic and business transformation. And the third is social and culture. In this field, there are many kind of discussion, especially I choosing the study of media and culture in information society, cultural revitalization in the digital age, and exploring the impact of social media on social culture dynamics in society, and the impact of digital sociology and on social cultural change in the future society. There are many discussion who talk about it, started from the digital sociology. And the fourth is defense and security. It's a combination about the politics and also the stated security or about cyber security. There are many kind of discussion in this area, but I choosing only three. There are the strategy for improving Indonesian airspace security in the digital era from legal perspective, effective strategies for implementing cybersecurity in the digital age, the role of technology in enhancing maritime effectiveness and security in Indonesia. As we know that based on the discussion of this research, we know that this defense and security also have enlarged dimension. There are maritime, cybersecurity, and nation, and also they elaborate from legal perspectives. Go on to the next discussion. As we know from many kind of discussion about above, there are many kind of discussion also make a large space that opens in various fields. And started from this discussion is there can make Christian religious education be interdisciplinary when we learn about digital era, especially from Indonesian mapping. And the question from to elaborate my paper is I will to find out and construct the what can Christian religious education build a framework, especially in the digital era in Indonesia. Uh, Based on the situation above, I make the sketch, especially of social analysis of digital era in Indonesia. As we know that the digital era also have various field, and the sketch is there are make the keywords to elaborate it. They are in the form of transformation of social relation, changes in the power structure, cultural change in its identity and subjectivity, digital gap or divide, and based on the keywords after to find out many kind of discussion in another field, I built it into uh, this understanding. For the first, the form of transformation of social relations. The digital era also make there are changes of the relation, especially in uh, social. As we know, the influence of communication technology on social interaction in the digital era, the influence of the Industrial Revolution 4.0 on interhuman communication relations in the implications of social change in the digital era and the impact of social media on cultural change. This is the first keywords based on the situation or discussion in Indonesia, especially in another area. And the second keywords that I propose is changes in the power structure. Digital era also driving change in the power structure, which are reflected in various discussion, especially as we know that constitutional review and digital judicial review models in Indonesia and constitutional law analysis of the strengthening of executive uh, power in the era of digital government. This is the keywords from government or defense and security area, especially to show about changes in power structure. And the third keywords that I propose is cultural change as a social analysis. The digital era has driven cultural change that are reflected in various discussions, including the impact of digital sociology on socio-cultural change in the future societies, and the impact of social media on socio-cultural dynamics in Indonesia. This is the largest situation about digital sociology. Maybe once of the discussion not yet published well, like USA is digital religion, also grow up in Indonesia, but not yet clearly like USA. On the fourth keyword that I propose as a sketch of social analysis is changes in identity and subjectivity. The digital era is encouraging changes in human identity and subjectivity, which are reflected in various discussions, including the tension of Christian youth identity in the digital age, being ourselves in a connected world from perspective of Kierkegaard and the crisis subjectivity, an analysis of it Edmund Husserl transcendental phenomenology on the constitution of meaning in the technological era. This is also the one of the discussion that happened in Indonesia to intermeet or interconnection uh, philosophy and Christian religious education, especially to show about the changes in identity and subjectivity. And the fifth also keywords or the sketch of social analysis is digital divided or digital gap. In Indonesia, there are many kind of reflection or discussion to talk about it because there are many kind of uh, a study on improving the lives of micro, small, and medium enterprise through digital literacy for closing the digital divide or digital gap. This is also the problem because Indonesia has many problem in technology. There are no many places have a good connection. So this is one of the problem as a keywords to talk about digital era from Indonesian perspectives. Based on the situation of Indonesia and the sketch of social analysis by using the keywords that I built, I think that the spiritual basis to talk to make a Christian religious education started from digital discernment. Digital discernment is a structure that I offer as its theological basis is consciousness by recognizing the impact of digital on life, reflection by assessing digital experience theologically, evaluation by comparing them to biblical values and Christian ethics, decision by determining spiritual action, and the last is transformation, forming healthy digital habit. Uh, And digital discernment by using it maybe can be a good good foundation from the combination digital and discernment as a part of spiritual discussion. Now I go on to build a Christian religious education in the digital era in Indonesia. It is just a sketch. The construction of Christian religious education in the digital era in Indonesia is built through a reflective awareness that the digital era is not to be rejected, but rather addresses Wesley and digital era expected to foster constructive, reflective creativity in the light of the Christian faith. I see this is a calling of Christian religious education. This calling encourages a reflection conversation in the digital age. This reflection is a hallmark of the contribution over by digital discernment. Uh, I think that Christian religious education in digital era in Indonesia is implemented within the context of faith communities, particularly in the churches. And the churches uh, serve not only as a place of worship and faith education, as is the case in the educating Christian, but also a places for building and developing Christian discernment. This is the calling for the church as a part of faith communities to address digital era in Indonesia. Uh, the conclusion is Christian religious education needs to respond to developments in the digital era. This attitude does not mean rejecting the digital era, but rather critically integrating it. This integration is expected to foster the growth and development of faith. This is the calling to this situation in digital era, especially in Indonesia, and fostering the Christian religious education. This is just a sketch. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Paulus. Perhaps we can show appreciation for Paulus's presentation. Okay, our second paper today will be presented by Jermaine Eric Whiteside. Jermaine is a doctoral candidate in Christian leadership at Liberty University, whose research focuses on the governance of artificial intelligence in theological education, faith-informed AI ethics, and Christian leadership. His presentation introduces the Faithful Intelligence Framework, a formation-centered approach to AI governance designed to help theological institutions integrate AI while preserving the relational, communal, and spiritual dimensions of religious formation. Jermaine, I'll turn it over to you.
Can everyone hear me today?
We can
Yes.
hear you fine.
Okay, let me get this in presentation mode. All right. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Jermaine Whiteside, and I'm a doctoral candidate at Liberty University School of Divinity. In just a few days, I'll be defending my dissertation. So if I seem a little overloaded today, you'll know why. This research is presented in my personal capacity and draws on my work conducted through Anointed EDU and Anointed Connect Church. I'd like to begin with a simple scenario. Imagine a seminary student writing an honest spiritual reflection. They are wrestling with doubt and asking difficult questions and trying to make sense of their faith. In a healthy formation environment, that paper becomes the beginning of a conversation. A professor reads it, he asks questions, he encourages reflection, and helps the student continue growing. But now imagine something different. The essay is evaluated entirely by an AI grading system. A few seconds later, the student receives a 58 out of 100. The AI has interpreted emotional struggle as poor performance. No human educator ever reads his work. Now, that exact scenario has not yet been documented in theological education. However, the underlying mechanism that automated scoring systems can misinterpret emotional complexity writing is already supported by peer-reviewed research. So the concern isn't speculative. It's already emerging. And that raises a central question, not about technology, but about formation. This presentation introduces faithful intelligence, a theological governance framework for evaluating artificial intelligence in religious education. Put simply, it asks one question: when is AI helping us teach? And when is it beginning to replace formation? That is the question the paper seeks to answer. My central argument is that AI should be understood not simply as another educational tool, but as a formative authority, one that shapes moral reasoning, epistemic trust, and ultimately patterns of belief. Formation isn't supposed to be effortless. It grows through struggle, through dialogue, through questioning, and through community. AI, by contrast, is designed to remove friction and deliver answers as quickly and efficiently as possible. Those are two very different educational logics. This paper is not about deciding whether religious institutions should use AI. It is about helping religious institutions decide how AI should be governed once they use it. Methodologically, this paper develops a normative theological governance framework designed for comparative application across diverse religions and educational settings. Rather than evaluate a single AI system, it establishes that religious institutions can use to evaluate any present or future AI technology. Over the next few minutes, I'll first describe the problem. Then I'll introduce the 4 principles of faithful intelligence. We'll apply these principles to real-world educational scenarios and documented cases. And finally, conclude with a practical governance model that religious institutions can use as they integrate artificial intelligence in teaching and formation. I look forward to our discussion, and thank you. This slide represents a transition that many of our institutions are already navigating, often without a theological framework for understanding it. On the left is a traditional model of theological formation. Students learn through scripture, tradition, teachers, community, and importantly, through struggle. Thomas Grooms reminds us that formation isn't something that happens despite struggle. It happens through struggle. Now look at the right side of this slide. A student asks the question. An AI system generates an answer. The process is remarkably efficient, but it's also fundamentally different. The question isn't whether AI provides the answer. The question is what kind of learner those answers produce. Mary Hess argues that digital media don't simply deliver education. They shape environments in which formation takes place. AI extends that insight. It doesn't simply change how we access technology and knowledge. It begins to reshape what counts as theology, the knowledge, who is trusted as an authority, and which form of learning becomes normal. That's why I argue AI is becoming a formative authority within religious education. Interestingly, the European Union has already recognized AI use in educational assessment as a high-risk application under the AI Act. But regulators ask only one question: is the system safe? We as religious educators have to ask another: is it formative? To answer that question, we first need to understand the mechanism that makes AI so persuasive. I call it acronym authority, or put it simply, these automated rules. This slide explains the mechanism behind the problem I've been describing. A student asks that question, an AI system processes that question, a response is generated, and at that point, something important can happen. The answer begins to feel authoritative. I describe this phenomenon as acronym authority. Put simply, it's the tendency for AI systems to present confident answers in ways that encourage us to trust them more than we should. The danger isn't simply that AI gets something wrong. The greater danger is that it sounds complete when it may actually be partial or even missing important parts of the tradition. This isn't just a theoretical concern. Researchers already show that these systems are increasingly shaping how students access knowledge, interpret information, and make decisions. Here's a simple example. In 2023, ChatGPT confidently placed John Calvin in the 20th century. The problem wasn't only the answer was wrong. The problem was how confidently it was wrong. A student without theological training might never question it. Research on automation bias tells us that people naturally place more trust in confidence in automated systems. Religious education creates an additional challenge. Students are already learning to trust sources of authority. If we're not careful, that trust gradually shifts from teachers to traditions. These tools is a mechanism that the next question becomes: can our existing ethical frameworks adequately address it? Let's look at that next. This slide is not a criticism of secular AI ethics. In fact, I believe these frameworks are essential. They made tremendous contributions to how we think about artificial intelligence by asking questions like, is AI accurate? Is it fair? Is it transparent? Those questions are necessary. But for religious education, they aren't sufficient. Religious educators have to ask one additional question. Does this technology preserve the process through which faith is formed, or does it begin to replace it? That's the gap, I believe, faithful intelligence address. It doesn't replace secular AI ethics, it builds upon it. Secular AI ethics helps us determine whether AI system is responsible. Faithful intelligence asks whether the use of AI preserves the rational, communal, and reflective process through which faith is formed. Those are related questions, but they are not the same answer, the same question. Once I recognized that distinction, I realized religion education needs its own theological governance framework. That realization led me to develop the 4 principles of faithful intelligence. Let's look at these principles. Everything I've discussed so far leads to this moment. As I worked through the problem, I found myself asking 4 simple questions. Are we protecting the dignity of learners? Are we being good stewards of the technology? Are we preserving wise human judgment? And when AI is used, who remains accountable? These 4 questions became the 4 principles of faithful intelligence. Let me briefly explain each one. Human dignity. Every learner is more than just data. Every learner is a person created in the image of God. If AI reduces a student's spiritual journal to a performance score, something important has been lost. The question becomes, does this technology treat people as persons or merely data? The next is stewardship, my favorite. Technology is never neutral. Choosing to use AI is not simply an IT decision. It's a moral and educational decision. This question isn't, can we use AI? It's how should we use it faithfully? The next is discernment. Formation requires judgment, reflection, questions, even struggle. If AI removes these experiences, it may increase efficiency while decreasing formation. The question becomes, does AI deepen reflection or replace it? The next pillar is accountability. Someone must always remain responsible for formation. That responsibility cannot be delegated to a software company. It belongs to the faith community. The question is, who remains accountable? Taken together, these 4 principles become a practical way for religious institutions to evaluate any AI technology today and tomorrow. Now let's see what happens when we apply them. This slide shows what happens when we move from theory to institutional decision-making. The framework applies across 3 areas: curriculum, assessment, student inquiry. Let's begin with curriculum. An AI system can generate a theological lesson in seconds. The question isn't whether the content is accurate. The question is whether pastoral judgment and local formation has been displaced. Different faith communities don't simply teach different information. They cultivate different traditions. That's why human educators remain essential. Second, assessment. An AI system can score a paper, but formation isn't simply measured, it's discerning. That's why faithful intelligence exists on a human in the loop evaluation. And I want to say that again, a human in the loop evaluation. Third, student inquiry. When students automatically turn to AI before engaging scripture, tradition, and community, they begin forming a different habit of learning. Over time, those habits become a pattern of formation. The question isn't, can AI answer theological questions? Is what kind of learner will it help create? This distinction is actually very simple. If AI replaces the teacher, formation suffers. If AI supports the teacher, formation can flourish. That's the difference between technological adoption and technological governance. Now let's look at a real world example. This case shows what happens when AI is allowed to assume religious authority. In 2024, Catholic Answers launches the AI chatbot, Father Justin. It wasn't presented simply as an information tool, it was presented as a priest. Within hours, it offered confessions, sacramental guidance, and even advised a baby could be baptized with Gatorade. The problem wasn't simply the answer was wrong. The problem was that the AI spoke with religious authority it did not possess. Catholic Answers removed the priest persona within 24 hours. Faithful Intelligence reaches a simple conclusion. AI may assist ministry, it should never replace religious authority. This study provides the strongest empirical support for one of the central concerns in my framework. Researchers evaluated 2 leading AI models across 11 Christian traditions in multiple areas of the Christian doctrine. What they discovered wasn't that AI frequently invented false doctrine. The more significant finding was AI often omitted important parts of the tradition. In other words, when AI was correct, it was often only partial correct. The model reproduced the broad outline of a doctrine, but frequently left out the distinctions, qualifications, and theological nuances that define a particular tradition. The researchers described this as a partial truth. From the perspective of faithful intelligence, I describe this as doctrinal flattening. Not error, not reduction, not falsehood, but incompleteness, presented as if it was sufficient. That's a formation problem. If a student never encounters the richness of their own tradition, they lose opportunity for theological reasoning, interpretation, and discernment. They learn doctrine, but not learn how the tradition understands doctrine. The risk, therefore, isn't simply the AI teaches the wrong doctrine. The greater risk is that it teaches a version of doctrine that is too thin to sustain formation. That brings us to the final example, where these concerns intersect with emerging governance and regulation. This diagram operationalizes the framework. Governance happens at 3 levels: the educator, the faith community, and the institution. At every level, the same cycle applies: detect, evaluate, recalibrate. AI changes quickly. Governance must evolve just as quickly. That's why theological oversight cannot be a one-time decision. It has to become an ongoing practice. On the left is a religious education without theological governance. Technology gradually begins shaping theology. These automated systems begin to replace pastoral authority. Doctrinal flattening reduces the richness of tradition. Formation becomes content delivery. And over time, AI systems begin shaping belief in ways that faith communities never intended. On the right is a religious education governed by faithful intelligence. Theological governs technology, not the other way around. Faith communities remain the primary source of authority. Tradition-specific formation is preserved. Assessment remains a pastoral act, and AI is continually evaluated through a process of detecting, evaluating, and recalibrating. The Acadia divinity example illustrates this well. The faculty didn't reject AI, they questioned it. They identified bias, they revised their results, and the students learned by critical engagement that technology rather than simply accepting it. This model is the framework. Ultimately, the question isn't whether AI will shape religious education. It already is. The real question is, will AI shape religious education intentionally through theological governance or unintentionally by default? Faithful intelligence is one response to that question. It's not the final answer. It's an invitation to test this framework, to evaluate it across different faith traditions, to study how AI shapes formation over time, and to build evidence-based models of theological governance that can keep pace with the rapid change in technology. I look forward to the discussion. Faithful intelligence is not the final answer. It is that invitation to test the framework across traditions, study it over time, and build evidence-based theological models. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Jermaine. Let's show appreciation for Jermaine. All right, so now we'll have a period of discussion. I'll begin by asking the presenters if they have any questions they would like to ask each other, and then after that, I'll pose a question to both of our presenters, and then we'll open the floor for anyone else who has questions. So the first thing I would like to ask is if the presenters have any questions they would like to ask each other. All right, so I'm going to go and proceed to asking my question. Both of you propose using religious principles or traditions as the essential guideposts for evaluating new technology. However, religious traditions are rarely monolithic. They are often characterized by internal tensions and competing interpretations. When these tradition-based guideposts conflict with one another, or when a technological use satisfies one principle but violates another, how do your models navigate that contradiction? How do you determine whose principles should take priority? And I invite either of you to respond first to that. I'm proposing it to both of you.
Okay, I go first. Thank you your question, Paul. That I think that the problem is digital era is uh, digital gap. This is the main problem from Indonesia because Indonesia have many location or area and the improvement of technology is not same in the every space or every area. So this is the problem of this technology, especially when we see the AI's condition in the Indonesia, maybe not built broader or wider like USA or another place, because Indonesia start to improving how to use AI. This is the challenge, especially from Indonesia, because uh, for the first, we know that a problem of digital gap or digital divide. So, go on to the AI. This is a double problem also. How to use AI if there is the digital gap. Uh, Based on the situation, maybe many kind of government, especially from Kementerian Digital or digital government, uh, a digital ministry from government and also supported by many kind of NGO to build to go faster about technology improving, especially by go deeper with use digital literacies. So not only to improve technology in many area in Indonesia, but also maybe improving and teach digital literacy in Indonesia. This started from kindergarten school. There is the government from Indonesia uh, make many kind of training to teachers to many places and also to parents and also uh, to churches or many kind of religious space to understand about digital literacies, because this is the main problem to solve uh, digital gap and also the improvement of AI? This is maybe the voices or the perspective from Indonesia. Thank you, Paul.
Mm.
Great, thank you for that answer, Paulus. And Jermaine, would you like to comment?
Well, that's an excellent question. I actually designed Faithful Intelligence with that concern in mind. The framework intentionally does not attempt to resolve doctoral disagreements between tradition. It governs the process in which eFaith evaluates AI in its own theological framework. Those four principles of human dignity, stewardship, discernment, and accountability are procedural rather than dominational.
All right, thank you for your answer. And I'd like to open the floor to others who may have questions. So if you perhaps you could raise your hand, or you could write the question in the chat, and I'll try to get those in whatever order they come up. Just seeing if anyone's raised their hand yet. Oh, yes, Carrot, Y. Peterson.
Thank you. Thank you for this presentation. I also work in a school setting, and so I am concerned with the use of AI at church and at school. And I'm wondering, like, what's what's the middle, what's the appropriate middle place? Like, um, I understand what the problem is, and I understand what he's stating, but I'm kind of wondering, what is the appropriate solution? It's not going anywhere, and it's becoming more prevalent. Um, are we just teaching people to search scripture first and then use it appropriately, or are we saying don't use it at all? Kind of what I would like to hear from Jermaine, if that's possible. Is there a happy medium here?
Well, one of the things I think that what I try to achieve is we need now as religious leaders to get in the uh and we got to talk as one voice, a governance framework for how AI is implemented and even in the programming behind the scenes. And if we don't work together, and that's why I designed this framework, it's so that we can bring this framework together from it. Like I said, it doesn't matter what denomination, and say, hey, okay, this is how this can not only be governed, but these principles can also be applied to AI applications that relate to religious education as well. So we have to really go high level because of the fact that AI is going to be in everybody's phone. It's going to be in everybody's atmosphere. So we got to get to where AI is being trained, programmed, and we got to say, okay, all these software companies are going to say, hey, we got this ethical framework that, hey, AI is not going to do this, going to respect your privacy and all that great stuff. But now, as I talked about, we need to AI will reduce formation. And so we have to say, this is a framework when it comes to, we got to have a human in the loop when it comes to that. So, you're going to see that churches, institutions, all are going to struggle with saying AI, but they're not going to have a choice because a lot of their applications are going to be already integrated, just like you see it now when you're getting Microsoft and Copilot and all those things. So I think we have to take this research and build upon it and come to the table and say, this is the framework. You have your secular AI ethics, but as it relates to religious education, this is the framework that needs to be applied before this is deployed. Does that kind of answer your question, Ms. Patterson?
It does, and I agree there has to be one language. I think that is a it just, to me, it adds more difficulty to that. We don't have one language for anything. You know, if we're talking about doctrine, if we're talking about Christian education, if we're talking about, we don't have one language, and so I'm confused as to how we would really move forward. Like, are you suggesting maybe by denominations or by content or by, like, how what's our first step to normalize AI use?
Well, like I said, our framework is a governance model. We have to, it's just like coming up with a constitution for a church or bylaws for a church. You know, we have to start with this is our constitution for AI and Christian education. And that comes with us working together to develop more research, input, and we come with that constitution just like any other church or any other organization. And once we have that constitution and it's backed up by empirical data, we're going to have a rich supply of empirical data over these next few years. We're going to see AI hallucinate and cause problems, just like the Catholic example. So we're going to have those justifications, but we as educators need to collect that data and we need to communicate. And what I'm trying to do now is I'm building a repository and research platform to share this data, and so that we can collaborate and build upon this paper and make several papers. If you look at in my research agenda for faithful intelligence, I'm applying it not only in theology, but I'm also applying it in the secular using Lean Six Sigma principles. So the tools are there and they have been there in the secular section. Now we got to come up to speed in the religious sector and use those tools to protect our formation and protect our faith. Does that make sense?
All right, Jermaine, I think I have to cut you off there, and I think Paulus has a question. And for the sake of time, I have to move on to Paulus over here for a minute.
Okay, thank you. Just maybe a short question about the implementation in the AI, maybe especially when elaborate to tell about God and spirituality based on your experience and the implementation into new encyclical that from Maureen stated in the chat box. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you for that, Paulus. Does anyone else have any questions before we move forward here? I'm just checking the chat for a minute. All right. I don't see anyone have. Oh, wait, here's one. Alicia?
Alicia, yes. I just thank you both for your presentations. Very informative. I have a quick question for Paulus. Do you find that the digital literacy program is sufficient and is it well received? Like, is that a big step forward in bringing digital literacy to your area, or is it just there?
Thank you, Alicia, that your question about digital literacies. Maybe in the secular area, there are many Indonesia started and follow from the government ministries and the NGO to build many kind of program about this digital literacies that happen in Indonesia. There are many kind of resources can be searched in the online or from internet, and digital literacies in the religious education perspective maybe started from how to use the technology or digital era to go deeper with spirituality. This is not uh, fulfill from the government. This is a task from religious educator to connecting between digital literacies and Christian religious education. This is a main area because when go deeper to using digital era, especially with collaborate with AI, there are many kind of problem because how to fulfill the spirituality from the Christian religious education because the government not yet especially from religious department not yet give the clear statement or clear program like the technology on communication ministry in government to elaborate digital literacies from a religious education perspective. This is the calling or the task from in Indonesian perspective. And I also learn from many countries that uh, to find the problem to find the program about digital literacies from religious education perspectives. Maybe I still find from another country. Thank you your question, Alicia.
Right, we're running close to the end here. I'm just seeing if there's any other questions. If not, I have a question still to ask, and that is one topic raised by Kristianto is the digital divide, and we're seeing that the rise of generative AI brings new layers of inequality from the high cost of API access and the hardware shortages to the environmental costs of maintaining global AI infrastructure. My question is, how can your respective frameworks be implemented in contexts where the economic and geographical disparities are extreme? And are we at risk of creating a two-tier religious education where only well-resourced institutions can afford to practice faithful intelligence or digital discernment? And I'd like to hear from both of you if that's possible.
Okay. Thank you your question, Paul. I think to start it to answers your question, maybe go on and continue from digital sociology, because by using the digital sociology, we can see the elaboration, the problem from digital gap and the improvement AI and also the inequalities and when understand from digital sociology, especially from Indonesia, I learned that there is many calling of reflection that how to solve the digital gap become digital justice. This is the calling, especially the improvement also of AI, because AI can be go further or can be improved to many uh, era area also, and because the digital justice is important, how to make it happen by using the digital literacies, especially to connecting with the Christian religious education. This is a main concentration that I go deeper to find out the collaboration and to build about the model of Christian religious education. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paulus, and I'll give the final word to Jermaine, and then we'll close up.
Well, this is a kind of a passionate area when we talk about the digital divide. I started my first nonprofit to address the digital divide here in the United States. And we've always seen that the way that the digital divide is going to be addressed is going to be through an incentive structure for that. Here in America, with all the money we spend here today, we still have only 50% of broadband internet. The rural areas are being discounted. But I think we running into an opportunity now that the AI data centers are you seeing trying to pop up in the most remote areas in the world. And I think through that, we're going to see that gap closing to access to technology because it's in their incentive, it's in their benefit. What we have to do is really govern this process and use those tools to really spread our word and spread our educational reach. But the digital divide it comes down to access, and we're going to see in remote areas and places you've never thought that people will have access to AI tools.
Okay, thank you your suggestion and question from Jermaine. Maybe I will go further to find the scholar from IT and computer science. Maybe started from this article. I just many start from digital sociology or digital social to to capture the problem about it. Maybe I will go further from the scholar from IT and computer science. Thank you your suggestion and question, Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
So
Okay.
I think we're out of time now at this point, but I think both of our presenters today, perhaps we can just show appreciation for them one more time. And again, it was an excellent discussion, and I wish we could go longer, but I think there's going to be another session in a few minutes, so we're going to have to close up. But thank you.